welcome to another episode of Mindset, Money, Success. And I'm your host, Loraine Marshall. And today we have a guest, Laura. Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm a somatic trauma-informed coach and narcissistic abuse specialist. And I help women who've escaped narcissistic abusive relationships and basically help move them out of their anxious minds and bring them back to the body to help process their feelings so they can feel like more in control, more confident, and calmer in their life.
Hello, it's Loraine here. And before we get into today's podcast, let me tell you about Skool. It's the all-in-one platform that coaches, trainers and creators like us use to share content, engage our audience and build recurring revenue. Whether you're through free membership or paid subscriptions, think $10 to $50 a month or even high-ticket upsells. Skool makes it stupidly simple. There's highly engaged communities, no more ghost towns. Charge monthly or keep it free, you decide. Zero hidden fees. It's just $99 a month after your first 14-day free trial, and you can cancel at any time. Unlimited members, courses and content, all with mobile app to keep your community connected. And the best part, you own the relationship. No algorithms burying your posts. Just your people, your content, your revenue. Are you ready to build your empire? You can grab a free trial and I'll drop the link in the show notes or below the video. Let's get you paid for what you already know.
I think that's a fantastic thing that you're doing there, because I realised that I didn't have any support when I was left here in 2020. And to meet someone like you now, 5 years later, I'm just in awe at what you're doing.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It's so kind. Like all of us who end up in this work, it is due to the lack of support myself when I was going through it, and I didn't know anybody else who had. And I feel like so many people that come into this work is they've got this like strong urge to help women who are in the same situation that they were in and help them do what they couldn't do at the time, basically.
Yes. And there's a lot of educational materials being produced now as well, isn't there? Videos on YouTube, on TikTok, there's books being published. And I know I've read one or two books, and that's given me some of the education as well and research into the different things that can happen. So in your work situation, how do you actually find your new clients? Have you got a system set up yet?
Yeah, so I mainly been blogging. I started writing about my experience when it happened to me after I found out everything. So I'm mostly on Google, and I tend to use Reddit as well, because the other thing with when you've come out of an abusive relationship and then you go no contact, you kind of want to remain anonymous. And I feel like Reddit is a really good platform for women and men to be open about their experiences there and talk about things. So I kind of operate on Reddit and Google mostly.
Yeah, I've never come across Reddit as a platform that I'm actively using, to be quite honest. I found YouTube as my first platform that I started putting videos out there. And then TikTok was another platform that I started. But I do write articles, and I think writing articles, I have a Medium account which is monetized, so that was a good way of like having a little bit of a drip of income. And recently I've heard about another article platform, which you can monetize as well, and it's Substack.
I've heard of
And I
that.
think it is important because when you're starting to write about your experiences and you're having to put the feelings, the things that you've done, and all of the learning and training that you've now got to help other women in this similar situation, I think it is you need to put the articles out there, and not be in the fear of being suppressed. And I think with the monetized articles and platforms, it's a good way of getting it out there, but also to actually earn from the articles that you write. And there's a lot of women I know that use, professional women who use Substack.
Yeah, I think the only reason why I haven't explored those avenues yet is you don't own the stuff on those platforms. I think you own your email list, as far as I'm aware. So I like try and drive traffic through Google searches, which I guess is what Substack and Medium do as well. And also, I don't know if I can probably repurpose the content that I have, but for me, like writing was an act of catharsicism as well for me, so I could process what I was actually feeling. And I feel like as well, when you're in the midst of like finding out and discovering that you're in an abusive relationship, you tend to like want to read everything. And it's something that can be done quietly without being discovered. And you can just relate to people's experiences a lot more with writing. But I'd really like to do YouTube as well, I think, at some point. And it seems like it's been the platform that you've most liked, would you say?
Yes, I mean, obviously my podcast goes out on YouTube, but when I first started with YouTube, I didn't know anything about YouTube, to be honest. So I just started doing, I had this calling in me to just do 5-minute affirmation videos, just speak positive affirmations, and just in the act of recording the affirmations that I was doing, I could feel the lift, the change in the energy, just by doing the recording itself and then putting it out there on YouTube. So a lot of people don't understand positive affirmations, but it's part of the mindset thing, because once you start to speak, that resonates, and if you can repeat some phrases that are going to help you with your goals, with your ambition, then it does sink into your subconscious, and it does lift that for your motivation and to move forward. And that's what I found from that first YouTube channel. And then I went into a different realm and decided to open another channel. So I had to. And I started doing affiliate reviews of digital products. So I started doing review videos, and I started making a little bit of money from that. But eventually I decided I wanted to pivot. And that's when I opened the podcast side, and I wanted to more help women like yourself. I wanted to go into that type of group experience for women, so that we can share our stories without having public eyes. So we've got a private space to share the stories, and then to be able to interact with each other and then come together to help. So like, even if it was a campaign arm, or someone who wants to set up a non-profit, or they've got an idea to launch a business, if women in sort of a group can actually then gain the empowerment from the other women. And I think that idea of mine, I haven't launched anything yet, but that's what I've got a goal for, or a dream for, to have this private space where women can communicate with each other and help each other.
I can see how much it lights you up as well. And I think like what you were touching on before with the mindset and the affirmations, is it's all part of rewiring your brain's patterns, because your brain works on predictions. So if you've been in survival mode for ages and feeling really stressed out, your body learns to be in a stressful state. So it's always like hunched up, shoulders touching your ears, a really like stiff posture, shallow breathing, and all these signals are sending to your brain that you're not safe right now. So you've got the piece where you need to start telling yourself a new story, but then you also need to give your brain safe experiences in your body so that it can see that you aren't in that abusive relationship, for example, anymore. So
Yeah.
rather than sitting there and having really shallow breaths, which is literally triggering your fight or flight to kick off, you can actually be conscious of what you're breathing like and slow it down. And then that's telling your brain, like, oh, actually, we're safe right now. I don't need to do these things anymore. And it just takes a lot of rewiring and repetition until your brain learns the new patterns over and over again. And doing that in a community space where, like we were just chatting before, if you have people from different healing stages, you can almost like see what you can become, and that this situation that you've been in won't define you anymore. And
Yeah.
you can go on and do all these other amazing things. And this is what you can do. And just meeting and talking to other people and knowing you're not alone is so validating.
Yes, I understand that, because when you just come out of a narcissistic relationship, abusive situation, your self-worth has been eroded, and you've got no sense of who you are, because you've been suppressed, you've been silenced, and quite often I try to explain it through like the emotional energy spiral. I don't know if you have come across that, where you've got the boredom in the middle part of the energy spiral, and the spiral goes down, 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 and the bottom of that spiral is no will to live, right? But then going up that spiral, you've got the sadness, the grief, the depression, and that's all of the lower vibrations, like emotional vibrations, until where you get past the boredom stage and you could get higher. Learning new skills is a higher vibration, and telling the truth is the highest vibration of all. And love and happiness and all of the other good positive emotions, motivation, and all of that is on the higher side of the emotional energy vibrations. And so that is how I explain to people about when you're coming out of abusive relationship, your vibration, your energy vibration is just down, suppressed, because you've been silenced. Your self-esteem's been eroded. And I think it takes a long time, because that's the trauma that you're feeling, but it takes a long time to come out of that trauma. And the grief in itself, having to release some of the anger, because anger is part of the grief. And just to release some of that anger can help you to raise your vibration.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, in your practice, is there any sort of tools that you help women with? Say if they're in that lower vibration and they're in that grief stage, do you help women come or move from the grief stage and forward?
Yeah, so I provide a safe space for them to process their emotions, and especially things like anger, which as women, it's often not safe for us to be angry. And we need a place to actually be able to experience anger. So, for example, an exercise that I like teaching when you have got anger, there's a lot of charge in your body. Like you can feel it. Maybe your cheeks start reddening, your body tightens, like it's getting prepped for fight or flight. And sometimes when we don't dispel that energy, it's like it needs to come out. And one that I use with women is, if you can practice this with me now if you want as well, is when you place your hands together and you can just exert all that anger, and if you feel the emotion, and your hands might start shaking and you're literally tensing all your muscles, and then if you take a little pause afterwards and you can just notice your body like go back into sort of balance again, and it's just a way of charging it through, because maybe you can nip out of a room and quietly do that. You can push against a wall as well and practice these exercises rather than buttoning up and just carrying on with your day, because then what happens is you're snapping at your children later unnecessarily and they don't deserve it, or you're like going off at a waiter when they've not done anything wrong, because your body's trying to process that emotion later on at some point. So yeah, I try and help women just notice what they're feeling and give them the opportunity to express it. Like even if it's that just sitting there and letting them cry and knowing that it's okay to grieve. Because there's so much grief when you come out of a relationship with a narcissist. You're grieving the life that you thought you were going to have, the person you thought they were going to be, and also just coming to the realization that everything you went through was almost like what was the truth and what was a lie. Like you feel like your life has been fake. And it's just so much going on. And you're not just healing from a breakup, you're healing from abuse. And that's like the part that you don't realize until you're probably, like you said, at a low energy where you're so depleted of all your resources, just completely shut down. And it's until you start realizing this is not actually normal. And then that's when we tend to reach out for support, because we just don't know how to spot the signs.
And I think a lot of women who are in that situation don't get that support. And that is a danger for the women who don't get that support, because haven't been suppressed and you're on that real bottom. I think that's really the danger point, because that's when women can say, right, that's it, I've had enough.
And you've been told so many times that your feelings don't matter and your needs aren't important. So you start to think it's almost dangerous for you to have needs, to speak up, because then there's gaslighting, there's silent treatment, there's aggression and conflict. So you get used to minimizing your own experiences and rationalizing it away that you can't spot it happening.
Yeah. And I think the other part of it as well is not just the trauma that you go through, because you could lose all connections to your family, because even relatives and family members might not believe what you're saying. The other thing is the community. You lose connections to the community, so you become isolated, ostracized. Women can be completely financially devastated, because when they've been in that relationship, they end up becoming dependent on the abuser, and the abuser has entrapped them, basically, where you're not allowed to work, or you have to stay home, or you've got the children, or even without the children, they don't want you to have or do anything that would impact what they want. You have to ask permission for things. You can't do certain things. And that's like a controlling part of the abuse, where they sabotage quite a lot of the time. They sabotage your opportunities because they're suppressing your self-esteem, and you are in a situation where you just think, well, in order to appease the abuser, you don't do what you could be doing. You just give up on your dream. You give up on the goal. If you want to monetize or create a business, or, do something like that. I've been in a couple of relationships that have been similar like that, where I had the idea to do something, but then was shut down and repressed. So I wasn't able to do the idea and the dream and the goal that I had. And you don't realize it when it happens, or when you're going through. You do not realize it until after you come out and then understand because the first time it happened to me, I never knew, didn't understand it. It's only now that I've learned about all the different types of abuse, the coercive control, the emotional and psychological abuse, that when I've understood that and I go back and I'm thinking, oh, there was elements of that in a relationship I had before, but I didn't realize it.
Yeah,
So,
because you kind of only ever see on TV like the physical side of things. So you just don't realize being ignored for days as part of abuse and being gaslighted. You can't really spot gaslighting happening until afterwards. And then you sort of look back and think about the conversation. So it's all so subtle. And then there's so many other distracting elements that get involved, like hoovering and love bombing and being told that you're like their soulmate and planning all these future trips and everything. You're just so sucked into it all. You're just consumed with trying to please them the whole time because you're also trying to stop all the other things from happening, like the bad behavior. And that's, I think, like what you were saying, why your goals and your ambitions just get squashed because your whole time is just spent on this whole person. They become your world, but you don't see that you're closing yourself off from the world because you don't realize there's anything wrong. It's only until afterwards when you learn the words, they help define your experience and process it all, which
yeah,
again is a whole other thing to process, learning that you were in an abusive relationship. So it's very nuanced and it's so different for each woman.
yeah.
How nuanced the experiences and like finding out about abuse and the shock of it all and all the feelings that you have to process.
Yeah. So, do you have a website or a way for people to contact?
Yes, I do. It's saltsisters.com, but salt has two L's in it because originally I started the website with a friend who's also called Laura and who also had a toxic relationship. And we had like an obsession with the sea, and there's a whole thing behind it, which you can read about on my website, on my about page. But yeah, it's saltsisters.com.
Right. Okay. Well, send me the link and I can put it into the show notes for you.
And I will do.
And
Thank you.
you know, we've had a good few minutes of chat here and a whole time spent even before the podcast because we just seemed to connect and had a lot to explain to each other. But
It's so nice.
I know, but yeah. So, is there anything you want to actually inform the listeners about? Is there anything else you can offer?
Yeah, I think I would just say like what I wish I'd known is I think things like therapy is so important, and I had a bunch of it. And obviously, learning about educating yourself, but not to forget the body piece, because that's the one thing that I didn't realize for so long. And once I started working with the body, it's like it's supercharged my healing. And I do think healing is a gradual process that we'll kind of be going through our whole lives. But when you can learn the skills to regulate your emotions, which is basically what somatic coaching is all about, then you can apply that to every challenge that comes in your life again. Like you learn these skills once and that's it. You've got them with you for life and you just keep practicing them and putting it in. So I would just say if you're just getting out of an abusive relationship and you don't know where to start, just think about covering the mind and think about covering the body and try and do something that combines it together so that you can get the best support possible while you're transforming into a new person again.
Yeah, and I think it is really important, the therapy and to like writing the things down that's happened so that you can document the things. That is a release. I know for me, writing my first book, that was a bit of a release to do that. And there is lots of other things like meditation and breathing techniques and the CBT stuff. And everyone, I think, is different of what they need. But if they can just get a few things that they can practice, like the listening to music, for example, with a certain resonance, like a certain vibration, and just lying down and processing the music can help with just raising your energy levels. Singing and dancing is a couple of ways which are free. You put the music on that you like, turn it up loud, and then just move your body. And that's a brilliant way of doing it. And I'm trying to think, the releasing of anger, when I published my book and I was researching everything, you can just speak out loud the things that you don't want, the things that you wanted to say but couldn't say. You can say, this is this, this is that, and be angry. Or you could take a pillow or cushion and then just hit the pillow and the cushion, and then that'll
really scream into it.
Yeah, scream. Or you could just go into a nice place in the countryside, and if there's nobody around, you can just have a screaming session.
Exactly. A big part of my healing was doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It was doing self-defense, and that helped me sort of empower myself again to have this skill that I hope I never have to use.
Yeah.
But it's when you feel so weak, you need something to help with your strength, like doing weights, any sort of self-defense. But it's just acknowledging what you're feeling and trying to channel it and honor what you're doing, what feels natural to you.
Yeah.
And there's so many tools available, and like you've listed a lot of them as well. And it's not just using one thing, it's using lots of things and trying to do it with an existing habit, maybe like just doing a bit of mindfulness, brushing your teeth, for example. It's 2 minutes where you can maybe just practice trying to tune your attention back onto just brushing your teeth. And that's a really small practice that you can try and do twice a day. But it's just don't make it hard for yourself. Try and do it easy little things.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a guest on the podcast, Laura. It's been amazing to chat to someone who understands what it's like to actually have been involved in some abusive situation. I know how difficult it is to recover. So you are doing amazingly, and to have set up your coaching and offering support for other women, I think it's brilliant. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Loraine. It's been so nice connecting with you and exchanging stories, and hopefully there'll be exciting things to come for both of us soon.
Yeah.